Called the January 11th, 2024 meeting to session. We don't have any minutes, so we'll do that on the next planning board. So I guess I'll, it says adoption of the agenda. So do I need a motion to adopt? I need a motion to adopt
I make
the
a
agenda.
motion to adopt the agenda.
Do I have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Adoption carries. All right, any public comments? Does not look like any. All right. All right, Amy, we'll turn it over to you for the subdivision on Mill Creek Road project.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
tonight in your packet is the Mill Creek Road project, or what's currently known as the Mill Creek Road project. It will get a snazzy name if it gets moved through to a subdivision, and will obviously follow the subdivision rules and not be the same as any other one or something that is confusable with the other ones. The applicants is 4 Oak Capital Development LLC, with Frankie Williams submitting the application. The engineer of record is Norris and Tunstall out of Wilmington. The property is approximately 25.82 acres and is proposed to be single-family residential. It's on the north side of Mill Creek Road, approximately 1,550 feet west of NC 50 Mill Creek Road intersection, and adjacent to the Poplar Branch subdivision. So as required by Appendix B, Article 5, Section 6.3, Review Procedures, subdivisions larger than 2 acres require a sketch plan review by the Planning Board and the Subdivision Administrator for general compliance with the ordinance. So on behalf of 4 Oaks Capital Development LLC, Frankie Williams is requesting a sketch plan review of the attached site plan. Per the subdivision ordinances, any subdivisions over 2 acres should submit this plan. This review shall in no way be construed as consulting an official action of approval for recording and subdivision by the Planning Board as required by this ordinance. The attached site plan proposes a single-family home subdivision consisting of 67 lots. The zoning and location map is in your packet for your review. As noted on the map above, the property is zoned R5. The development will meet the requirements of the subdivision ordinance as well as those associated with the R5 zoning. The project plans to connect to the adjacent Poplar Branch subdivision. You can see that there was a stub out that currently has a cul-de-sac, but will be, that is a town street, so we will be able to connect to it and connect and provide those 2 connections. After review by the Planning Board and staff, the applicant will submit a fully engineered set of plans to the town for review. So this process will include the TRC, Planning Board, and Council review for approval of the preliminary plat. So staff requests that the Planning Board provide any comments regarding the attached site plan.
Thank you, Amy. Any discussion, comments? So when he brings this back or goes to it, as far, since we're redoing doing these updated ordinances, or is this project going to fall under the updated ordinance, or what?
It'll fall under the current ordinance. If prior to the project being approved, changes were made, the applicant then can exercise project choice, which allows him to choose which ones.
Okay.
So if the newer one is better for him, then he could choose the newer one. The applicant is hoping to move this through rather quickly to get on the sewer wait list. So if their schedule is kept, our ordinances will not be updated prior to this coming back to you.
Okay.
What is the length of time right now for the sewer wait list, if this were to be approved?
So Mr. Price is here and can ask questions, but that is kind of all up in the air and is determined by who gets here first.
No,
So
I
if this
understand.
person-
If they were to get
If
approved.
this person was to get on the wait list, they would be approximately,
It would be 7th on the list.
7th on the list. Now about what is I guess a guesstimated time frame? 5 years, 2 years, 1 year?
If this project, this is a hypothetical, but if this project is the next one added to the list, they can start construction, they'll have capacity available to them in August. That's a big hypothetical.
Okay.
If they happen to be third on the list, it might be 5 years.
So right now, we're just dealing in a guesstimate. They're number 7, but they could bump up to number 2, they could bump up to number 3. Is that what?
No, it depends on how big the other projects are. For example, this is, I deal with gallons, so I apologize, 24,000 gallons, so it's a relatively small project. If, say, a project came in with 150,000 gallons, That's going to bump them a couple years down the road,
Okay,
if they got any for them.
all right, thank you.
And this, we do have a release from Pender County Water, so we will be serving the water for this project. They have already obtained that.
Good to hear they're releasing.
What?
They weren't releasing in the past.
They,
Was this always the plan for this lot? Is that why that street's there already?
pretty much, yes. So this happened before me, but my understanding is that the original developer was going to do this as well, and then decided he was no longer interested, or they were no longer interested in the project, and have put it up for sale.
Part of our interconnectivity has one on both sides, yeah.
So it is stubbed out so that if the property to the west or the top of the page were to develop, then it would be able to connect to that adjacent parcel as well. So it is cross-connected.
Are they citing any traffic concerns right now? I mean, it sounds like a small project with 60 houses versus what's been seen in Surf City, but is there any concerns that they have?
So this has, would not require an NCDOT trip generation, and more than likely, it would not require, even the more stringent ones around like Wilmington's is 100 AM PM peak, it would not meet the thresholds for that. But this is an NCDOT road, so they will require a driveway permit, and they will do an in-house review to see if it needs like a right turn lane or something like that. But it would not require an overall traffic impact analysis.
What is that threshold that triggers that?
For the DOT, it is, I think it's 3,000 trips a day, but the road, to require improvements, the road has to have an ADT of 4,000. Most municipalities, which is something we're looking at writing into our ordinance, do 100 AM PM peak or 1,000 ADT. And to meet that threshold, it is typically like a 98 or 99 unit subdivision.
Is the pond in the back pre-existing? Just going to convert it into a stormwater, or how does that work?
I've not been that far out there.
'Cause it says existing conditions on this plan, and there's, you know, it outlines the proposed stormwater pond essentially.
So all of that would be looked at on the TRC level. They'll have to get a state stormwater permit for this project, and do the wetland delineation and go through. They'll have their state sediment erosion control, their state stormwater, and then if they do any kind of fill, although I think they're trying to stay out of all the wetlands, if they do any kind of fill, they would have to go through Army Corps of Engineers.
I looked at this on Google Earth, there wasn't anything there.
Was it? I got you.
I'm looking at the underlying contours where that stormwater pond is located. It looks like that's actually the higher ground, and that it falls off. So that's their proposed location.
And that property backs up to a creek.
There is a creek back there, yes, sir.
Easley's Creek going through there.
Is there any runoff considerations that or concerns that they might have going into other properties? I know when the school was built that there's runoff over towards the old properties on the backside where they put a lot of debris and stuff. Is there any concerns for that for this?
So with the state stormwater permit, the lot should be graded so that they run to the stormwater ponds, so that the runoff from them goes to the stormwater ponds. There will be an outfall from the stormwater pond, but as far as the property, it should be graded to drain back to the stormwater.
And the stormwater has access to the creek itself that runs through there, is that correct?
None of that engineering has been done. That will be done. A lot of the questions you're asking tonight are TRC level questions, and we have not started that process. This is just kind of a high-level look at it. So those things will be answered. We just haven't gotten to that step yet. And the state approves the stormwater permits for the size development.
Are those the only incorporated lots for Surf City on Mill Creek, on that area?
The development right next door is in town. If you go back to the zoning map, you can see that everything else around it's in the county.
It's county, yeah, okay.
It's just that little bit there that's in town.
Those two. Any further comments from the board? It's the pleasure of the board. Any motion?
Are we making motions?
No, I just needed to hear your conversation.
Okay, no motions.
Thank you for providing your comments.
All right, I guess ordinance update discussion.
Yes. Chris, if you can show my screen, please. Thank you. All right, so you all should have gotten an email or two from me that has a link in there. If you're having difficulty getting in, please let us know so that we can help you get in. Also note that if you have multiple email addresses, the only email address that will let you get in is the email address that I sent this to. So if you have a personal and a business, make sure you use whatever one you have provided me in the past. That's how you get in there. So you will be able to, if you go in here, and you should be able to see it over here on the screen, the video link is just that planning board meeting from December. So you can go in and look at that and just jog your memory if you want to see it, or if you weren't here, it's a good opportunity to look at that. And then down here, I put in the assessment report. That is nice to look at because it kind of shows the new layout and kind of where the old stuff was. So if you're used to finding stuff in the older, you'll be able to see kind of where they moved it around to. The steering committee responsibilities was just a handout that I think I gave in October of kind of the expectation. And then all of the Word documents, you can open them, and then you can edit in them. So as we talked about, you can either edit in them. You all have hard copies from the December meeting if you were at the December meeting. If you were not, you can come see me. I still have some hard copies in my office. You can go and mark them up. If it's legible, I'll scan it in and send it to them. If it's not legible, you might have to type it up for me so that we can read it. So just think about, if you're taking notes on it, just kind of think about that and make sure it's legible if you want me just to scan it in. So you can look through those. You can see over here on the side kind of how, like, comments have been made. A lot of them are just questions kind of about, hey, make sure that we go back and check the 160D, formatting questions and whatnot. If you have a question, you can comment. You can do new comment and add it. Or you can respond if somebody else, like if I say something and you don't agree with me, you go right in there to my comment and say, I don't agree with this. Or if you think it's great, put a thumbs up so that we know that more of the planning board agrees it. So like if Mr. Ellis makes a comment and the rest of y'all think that Mr. Ellis's comment is really good, then if you could just throw a thumbs up in there, it lets us know that the whole planning board is kind of on board with that. So that would be helpful. We had requested these to be due around the 12th. That being said, that meeting was right before Christmas, and then the SharePoint site wasn't set up till a few days after that. My guess is nobody's really had time with the holidays to really devote to this. So I'd like to request that within the next week, maybe by next Friday, a week from tomorrow. You provide comments. If you have questions, let me know. Or there's some things too, if you have questions, if you don't understand what it says, it's very easy, just go in there and say, I don't understand this, because if you don't understand it and you've been involved in this for a little bit, or you've built a project, then the average person isn't going to understand it as well. So if you read something and it just doesn't make sense, or you feel like it contradicts, just put that comment in there. There are no wrong comments to make. I'd rather know that we don't understand it, or that we all interpret it differently, than get it passed and then have someone come in and be like, well, that's not how I read it. And then we've got to update it again in 2 months. And then once we get these, we will send them back. They're working on some additional, so as soon as we're done with these, we'll get the next chapter. Once we've made all of our comments and they've made the changes based on these comments, we'll do an accept changes. You'll get a clean document, and we'll read back through that document and see, did what we request get translated in the way that we thought, or did it change something else? Or maybe, hey, now that I'm not paying attention to all these things, I noticed something else down here or whatnot. So that's just kind of our update. I am still meeting with Karen and Greg and Liza every other Thursday. If you want to sit down with me at some point, if you have questions and you want to sit down with me, give me a call, send me an email, let's set something up. I tell you to drop by, but then somebody might be in my office, or I might not be here or whatnot. So if you can just set up a time, I'm happy to sit down and go through any of it with you. So that's kind of where we are on that one. But everybody on planning board should have access, and if you don't, please let me know.
Thank you. Now, updates, general project updates? Anything in the pipeline here?
I have an update, but it's not a project. We have a new planning board liaison. So before we had Mr. Kolaski and Mr. Kennedy. Mr. Kolaski has been moved to another department or board.
Promoted.
Do I?
It's been promoted.
I'm offended. So Ms. Holly will be our co-liaison with Mr. Kennedy, so that is your person. If you want certain things represented at council, those are your two people to kind of talk to and say, hey, maybe when you're sitting up there and we're talking about it, maybe you could remind them that we felt this way, or we thought this thing. But they're going to be your person, and they'll be involved. They will also be very instrumental in our rewrite. So if there are things that you feel very passionate about or whatnot in the rewrite, they're the ones that are going to finally adopt it. You're going to want them to be our champions at council, saying, hey, we put a lot of time and effort into this. This is really important to us. Can you, if it comes up, can you have a conversation and kind of champion what we've said? So welcome, Alicia. Got it. Other than that, we have Evolve passed last night. The rezoning out on 17 got passed last night. So anticipate seeing a site plan coming through for that. So that is conditional district, meaning that the generic site plan, it will be very similar to that, but it will be the engineered one when it comes through. The proximity, which is the next phase of what was the Bishop Creek project, that one has submitted kind of a more than a sketch plan, but not an engineered set of plans. So they will be coming forward pretty soon. Then you've got this project that we talked about tonight that's potentially moving forward. I have received some questions from Applewood Trace's team asking about the process of moving forward, because as y'all remember, they're also a conditional district. So the plan's pretty much hammered out, and now it's time to start doing the engineering. So they'll be moving forward with their phased plans and getting their approvals. We will be investigating the annexation of that small parcel behind Magnolia Reserves, which will add somewhere around 20 additional lots to Magnolia Reserve. And that is about it on our major projects. I'm still waiting for additional information on Agave Azul before we can really begin that, that review. It's here, but it's missing a couple things. So it's kind of the big things.
Thank you, Amy.
Mhm.
I have a motion?
To,
Adjourn.
oh, I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion